My name is Bruce Russell. I'm 68 years old and I was diagnosed with chondrosarcoma in my back in 2014. So this is how my story starts. Every year I go to the doctor for my annual checkup, and I went to my doctor, and my wife and I were just real close to taking a cruise. Everything looked good, and he says, "How old are you?" And I said, "I'm 65. He says, "You can get a free EKG." And I said, "Great, let's do it." So as he was doing the EKG, I watched his face a little bit, and he kind of winced a little, and I thought, it doesn't probably sound good. So after everything was done, he says, I want to send you to a cardiologist. I didn't have one. And so I was going to go to my wife's cardiologist because she really liked him. Went to him. He was busy, so I went to his partner. And he says, "I need to run a calcium score." And he says, "I don't believe in EKGs because they're really only good while you're having a heart attack," is what he said to me. So we did what's called a calcium score. And he called me early and says, "I want you to come in." Well, I'm thinking, oh, what has he found? I've got a blockage. Something's wrong. I have to have a surgery on my heart. So I go in there and he says, "Everything looks great." He says, "Your heart pumping is really in good health." I'm going, what am I doing here? He says, "But the radiologist found a shadow." So immediately he sends me, he says, "You need to get this checked out right away." So he gets a hold of a Dr. Crandall, who was very, very good. And I went and had a CT scan, an MRI. I went through all these tests, and while I was doing my CT scan, I think it was, the doctor called my wife and she was waiting for me in the waiting room and said, "You have cancer." And I come out and she says, "Yeah, they found something that is cancer." Well, you hear that word and it just takes the life out of it practically. That's what it did for me. And it was very difficult. And so from there, we went to meet my surgeon, Dr. Crandall, and he had just lucked out. This is like a miracle. And he had a cancellation surgery, and so he was there to talk to me, and he spoke with me for like 2 hours. He says, "This will never happen again. You'll never see me like this again." So he sat with me for 2 hours and explained what he was going to do. He scheduled the surgery while I was in the office. He says, "We've got to do this right away." What they had diagnosed me with was chondrosarcoma, and it wrapped around my spine. It was the size of a hot dog bun. I had no symptoms, none. I didn't have a bad back. I wasn't on any pain medication. I was doing everything I always do, fairly physical. I didn't, because he asked me, he says, "How many painkillers are you on?" And I said, "What are you talking about?" I said, "I don't have any pain." And so they were very surprised by that. So he scheduled me, and I said, "Well," he says, I said, "Well, is it serious enough? My wife and I are going to the Mediterranean." He said, "For how many days?" And I said, "Well, about 14 days. He said, "No, I don't want you to go. Something could happen." I said, "Well, how bad?" He says, "You could be paralyzed. This is actually starting to clamp down on your spinal cord. If it severs, you're a goner." He says, "In fact," he said, "I don't want you wearing shoes. Wear your sandals. I don't want you bending over to tie your shoes." So when he started talking that way, I thought, this isn't good. And so it was from there, within a week, I want to say 5 days, that I was in surgery, which took 14 hours. And from there, I was going to be in the hospital for a total of about 7 days. I ended up staying there 27, mainly because he did another surgery, because the cancer that he took out, he says, there's still cancer in there. He says, you can go home and you can recuperate, or he says, we can just take care of it now. I says, just do it. But that's kind of how the whole thing started. It was just very abrupt. Prior to the diagnosis, I had no pain at all. I was pain-free. I had no symptoms. That's why I was so surprised. I thought, I hear about cancer and people getting cancer, and I thought, but I'm healthy. I just thought, it's not going to happen to me. So I was as surprised as they were, because there was just nothing to indicate any kind of illness. After the diagnosis and the surgery, I came home, and I felt okay. I mean, it's just painful, the surgery and what they had to do to go in and get the cancer. And I thought, well, this odd feeling I have in my back because of all the hardware that's now there, I thought I can get used to that. I would get up in the morning, like 11, and kind of just fight my way through the day. I was on, hydrocodone, OxyContin, and that would give me some relief for, if I was lucky, for 2 hours. And then I'd have to take more, which I couldn't take it that often. So I just suffered through the pain. Honestly, I would wake up in the morning and think, oh my gosh, I've got to go through another day. That's how bad it was. So as far as doing the things I enjoyed doing, I'd do anything. I just couldn't. I didn't feel like doing anything. Just laid down. Hopefully I could just go back to sleep to, get rid of the pain or not have to think about it. Sometimes that worked, sometimes it didn't. So it was difficult. The surgery that they performed on me, in order to remove 3 vertebrae that the cancer had wrapped around, they had to cut me on the side here and go in that way to actually pull the vertebrae out almost kind of from the front of me. What I was trying to do is we were trying to find doctors that would give me some relief. And the surgeon that did this part of the surgery, we finally got an appointment with him, and I'm thinking, oh great, this guy's going to help me. He's going to help with this pain because he's going to know what he did. So I go in and we finally meet him, and he actually came out in the waiting room and says, Mr. Russell. And so I walked back and thought, this is going to really be great. And I explained, what I was going through, and he said, well, here's what I want you to do. I want you to go to Costco, buy the biggest bottle of relief Aleve you can buy, and take that until it's gone. And my wife and I looked at him like, really? I'm taking OxyContin. That's, so we left there very disappointed. Aleve. So from there, we went to another doctor, and he was more of sports medicine for injuries and pain and that sort of thing. And he did some spinal blocks on me. And I felt like I got a little bit of relief, just a little, not much. And I went to my oncologist, and he says, you're just going to the wrong doctors. He says, you've got to go see this Dr. Stearns. And he says, but you may not be able to get into her because, she has quite a patient load. So we called, and they said, yeah, we think we can get you in. And so, it was very quick, actually. I think within a week's time, says, yeah. So we thought, oh my gosh, finally we've got somebody that knows what they're doing to help me. And so we met her, and it was from her and through her that after about really a year's time, I started getting some relief. And I still have pain, I still have discomfort. My back feels very strange with all the 16 screws and 2 rods and 2 cages. It's weird. Feels different, but I'm okay with that. But it was just the pain. If I get rid of this pain, then I could do the things I like to do instead of just thinking about the pain all the time. Along with some of the drug treatment she gave me, she wanted to put an internal stimulator in my back and then up my spine to take that, not necessarily, it doesn't take the pain away, it just redirects it, kind of. It's like it's not really there. And it seemed to help a little bit. I mean, there was some relief. And I thought, I'd take any relief. So she was really the first one that was giving me something. And so once I found that was helping, I says, okay, let's put it in. And so it stayed in my back for a year. And over that year's time, I was very careful to try because we could adjust it, or she could adjust it. And so we would adjust at different times when I'd go into the office. And so I was really careful about, okay, now is it really giving me what I want? And over time, I was noticing it kind of like at a plateau. It was like, this is it. This is kind of where I am. I'm comfortable. I can do things. And when we went on our trip to the Baltics, it was towards the very end of this being in my back, because over that period of time, I did not take my charger, and I didn't take it on purpose. And I noticed that not having it on, I was feeling like I feel the same when it's off now than when it's on. So I went back to Dr. Stern. I says, let's take it out. And she says, okay, if you don't want any more and don't need it, let's take it out. So that's what we did. And I have noticed that the pain has lessened. I think over time, the body is healing itself. And part of it, I'm getting used to it. I'm kind of going, I'm just adapting to some of the pain. And there are days where I don't take any medication at all. I'm only taking about 5 milligrams of hydrocodone a day. That's it. And some days I just feel like I don't need to take it. And if I stay busy, I have a tendency not to even think about it. But then when I kind of stop the activity, then it starts to kind of rage a little bit because I maybe been doing too much or something. But overall, I'm much better. Activity helps 100%. I mean, like I said, I don't think about it so much, unless every once in a while it might be a sudden thing, but I'll remember not to do that again. But the activity definitely helps a lot, because there are days when I don't do anything, and it seems to bother me more. I like being active. I like doing things with my hands. I can still I've been doing lead and stained glass for like 35 plus years, so I still am able to do that, to be able to stand and lean over a table, do that sort of thing. I like to do things in the home. My brother and I have done a lot of remodeling, and I have a workshop here at my home. When I built this home, and I built it. My father was a carpenter, and my 4 brothers helped me. Took a year to build it. I built a shop just off the garage because I knew I was going to do that, and so I do it there, and it works out perfect. I don't have to go anywhere. I just get out there and I'm at work. But really, the only one thing they took was the skiing, and so that's not bad.